Can I stroke your rods?
Stroke the rods. I'll anti-back them.
All right, then.
And I'll pray for a last-minute screamer.
This is one incredible adventure.
It is.
To fishing.
To fishing. 3 fishing-mad amigos travel the world with one thing on their minds: carp.
Have a look at that. What a creature.
I'm Ali Hamidi.
Yes! Yes!
I'm Tom Dove. That's a huge old fish.
And I'm Neil Spooner. Look at that, a thing of absolute beauty.
Together, we're angling across the planet to find the biggest carp in the world.
My heart is racing.
As a species, they've grown to mythical sizes.
I'd be deeply disappointed if one of you two catch it.
But our journey changes dream to reality.
Yes!
We'll take you on a wild ride to some epic locations.
That is spectacular.
We'll take on new challenges.
I'm dealing with it so well.
We'll push ourselves to the limits.
No!
But most of all, we'll catch monster carp.
That is what carp fishing's about. I haven't been that excited about a carp in ages.
Rule Britannia, good old blighty, beautiful Britain. By popular demand, you, the viewers, have asked time and time again for us to test our carping skills on home soil. And with the borders shut, well, it seemed like a pretty good time to deliver on your wishes.
I know loads of these trips done abroad, and as exciting as they all are, there is something about fishing on home turf.
Our destination was in the southeast of England and one of the home counties, Berkshire, and we had a very exciting lake lined up.
I have neglected my stuff in the UK, and it's been a very long time since I caught a big carp from this country. I am buzzing for this.
And rightly so. The UK is steeped in history and is where carp fishing as we know it today all began. In 1901, a keen angler called Otto Overbeck caught a carp of 17 pounds and 8 ounces. This was the first ever recorded British record and was the start of the greatest phenomena to hit UK angling.
Fast forward to the 50s and a famous lake called Redmire had become the home of records, producing the country's first 30 and 40-pounders. And then in 1980, a famous angler called Chris Yates caught the country's first ever 50-pounder, something that I have also achieved. Lads, do you know the really nice thing about this week? You might be able to join me in the 50s Club, seeing as you two aren't here, so PBs could possibly be on the cards for you.
Ah, beautiful. I knew that was coming.
While Dovey and his hair may have a £57 5-ounce PB, myself and Ali are still in the 40s Club. Mine stands at £47 and Ali's was a little smaller at £46 4 ounces.
Well, there has never been a better time to break your PB as a UK angler. After the fishing boom of the early 90s, this paved the way for a meteoric growth in the sport. Major captures such as the Snake Pit Common by Damien Clark were front-page news. Then came a famous carp called Mary, which was admired by a nation. A fish known as basil was so loved it even had its own funeral when it passed away. UK carp continues to get bigger and bigger, with a fish known as two-tone breaking the magical 60-pound barrier. Big fish in the UK are no longer surprises, with the current British record standing at 68 pounds 1 ounce, a fish known as the parrot, unfortunately now deceased. This fish was caught at the Ουέισινγκ estate. It still holds some monster-sized carp and captures the very essence of what makes carp fishing in this country so special. And that's why we're here. But before we wet a line, we stopped for a draw for a choice of swims.
Quite like not having to do a challenge to decide swims.
I like a challenge, but with a draw, numbers on a bit of paper, you know where you stand.
But who's going to go first? I think you should go.
No, you, mate. You don't always do the best in challenges, let's be honest. At least number one's still there to start with, isn't it?
No. Honestly, we're in England, I insist.
I've got it, lads. Just going to pick number one straight away.
Huh?
And I have...
I can't believe he's just gone ahead. It's a deer.
Deer?
Just in case number two is still available.
That's what you get, my old China. Here we go, in the land of Del Boy. I'm going to walk back like Rodders.
What you got, Al?
What do you reckon I've got?
With the draw done, it was time to head further into the Ουέισινγκ estate to the most famous of the 8 lakes, Cranwell's, a classic estate lake steeped in history and beauty with its mature tree-lined banks, snaggy margins and shallow weedy bays. This lake epitomises carp fishing here in the UK.
It has a stock of 170 carp in total, with roughly 25 over the 40-pound barrier, including the pretty one, bipolar, free scales and the long common. Plus 3 carp that have gone over 50 pounds. The Oxley's common, fangs and the Simo.
These carp are not going to give themselves up easily. Cranwell's is connected by 2 small channels to another lake next door called Oxley's. This allows the carp to pass between the 2. Added into the mix, the recently flooded River Kennet burst in its banks, sending cold and murky water into the lake, meaning that the angling could prove difficult. So if we could manage 10 carp between us, that would be classed as a huge team success.
If I'm honest, we've got a team target. The first, most important one is to get off the mark, catch a carp, and then it'd be lovely to catch an English 30.
I know that doesn't sound big compared to the monsters we've caught in the past, but do you know what? It's no mean feat from any lake in the UK, let alone here.
To catch these tricky carp, swim choice is going to be vital, and this 16-acre lake has 12 named swims. After walking around and also speaking to the head gamekeeper, I made my choice, a swim called End Beat.
There's 2 swims on this venue that have a lot of water in front of them. This is one of them, and it has a little bay to the right that no other swim can get to. So a lot of fish holding there, and I'm hoping to pull a few of them out.
I decided to drop into a swim called the Woods, which commanded a lot of the lake, with an island ahead, open water and bays to the left and right.
This swim's quite well known on this lake, produces a lot of fish when it's on. There's some nice areas, good spots, good shallow water, a bit of deeper water. It's a few options, really, to go at.
Having last choice, I went for a swim known as the Slope. It also had a good access to the island, but also a lovely-looking long margin off to the left. With it being spring, I knew that opportunistic angling can be super effective. The carp are patrolling, picking up small bits of food, so I tied up a zig to hopefully trip them up.
To try and nick a quick bite, going to go with a zig rig, lead on the bottom, buoyant bait suspended up in the water, tipped off with a juicy worm. It's got to be the perfect meal for a passing carp.
I decided to fish my other 2 rods, both on zigs, out in the lake towards the island, but mixing up the hook baits with one yellow pop-up and the other a buoyant piece of yellow foam, both soaked in isotonic goo.
I was hedging my bets too, a zig rig on one of the rods with 2 rods on Brazil nuts fished on the deck. To accurately and stealthily drop my rigs at long range, I was going to use my bait boat.
Just going to put traps out tonight, so just the bait in the bait boat, like 4 handfuls. That's really good for this time of year. Not too much bait. Let them come in. They're scooting around all around the lake, and the idea is that you're just going to nick one, and it gives me time to assess and see what's going on out there. See where the fish show. Really know very, very little about this place.
I'm going to use my favourite and trusted spinner rigs and fish 2 rods in the bay. But as it's a difficult angle, I'm also going to use a bait boat to drop the rigs and then walk down and spray a few boilies around the spot with a catapult. You don't need much bait in spring as the carp are still not that hungry.
Our traps were now set. Anticipation was high, but the lake seemed quiet with no signs of carp. The forecast for the night was cold, so would the carp play ball? Only time would tell.
At 3 a.m, I was into what felt like a small fish from the bay down to my right.
Please let this be a carp. I don't even know if this is a carp or it's a pinch. Come on, please go to the net. Yes! Well, that isn't a huge carp, but it ranks extremely highly. It's the first one on UK soil, and it's the first one from this lake that I thought was going to be extremely difficult to get to. But it's first night, first dibs. Thank you very much. Every lake in the UK has a handful of cricket bat commons, and that is the exact definition of one. It's probably only mid-double, but it's a start, and you never know what there is to come.
We're in the UK testing our fishing skills on home turf at a traditional estate lake in Berkshire. We had our sights set on an English 30-pounder, but after a freezing cold first night, Dovey was the only one to catch with a small cricket bat-shaped common.
Bacon sarnie, an English classic.
Our first early morning passed without a bite, so rigs were refreshed and tactics were tweaked. I changed the pop-ups on all 3 rods, 2 out in open water between me and Dovey at 6 foot, and the other just off the island in 4 foot of water.
Adapting is going to be vital if we are to be successful here, and with no action across my zigs and after consistently seeing carp showing just off the island, I've fired up my bait boat and placed 2 rigs on the deck as tight to it as possible.
It's the sort of spot the fish are going to be going round all the time, and they've just got to drop down, and hopefully my hook bait is one of the first ones they pick up.
And I had a cunning new plan for my 3rd rod. I'd seen a couple of fish show directly between Ali and I, so I boated out a bright yellow pop-up with a few handfuls of tiger nuts to the area, but no luck. With time flying by, was the challenge to catch an English 30 going to beat us?
Well, we've just passed that 24-hour stage of the session. It really is sort of an enthralling and engrossing time because you don't know whether you're on the right spots, and it's all about, I suppose, letting the fish tell you where you need to be, because, you know, people tell you, you know, fish this spot in this swim, fish that one, but sometimes you want to go with your hunch and, you know, how the fish behave during that particular moment in that particular session. So, yeah, might get a line bite or 2 tonight, just to let me know I'm in the right zone.
Later that night, Dovey was again woken from his slumber.
It is sometime in the middle of the night. I'm connected to what I think is a carp. So pleased it's this left-hand rod. That means that I've got 2 areas that are doing bites now. If I could have hoped for any one of them rods to go, it would have been this one. Right, here we are. Another little common.
Ah, not the size we're after, and our 30-pound target is starting to feel like a very tall order.
Here he is, look. Almost a carbon copy of last night's. Where are the big uns?
It was our 2nd morning on the estate lake, and I felt it was time for a well-needed confidence-boosting chat with the lads.
Dove stepper, you little heroes. So were they on carp rods or quiver tips?
They were on carp rods, mate. They might have been small, but they were bigger than the 2 you have not caught.
Definitely.
What about you, Al? What's happening?
It still seems something's not right at the moment. Doesn't feel like anything's working very well at all, or the spots aren't right, or the fish are just not moving around and feeding hard enough. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's a weird time of year, isn't it? You go from thinking they're still acting like winter mode to spawning within a couple of weeks. So you need to catch it right, don't you, this time of year? Either way, this hot weather's going to do us good.
What about you, Spoons? No, I feel good, mate.
The first day in this swim, I feel like I should have actually caught one. There was a lot of fish in front of me. But when you come to a lake that you don't know, I wasn't 100% sure what my approach was going to be, and that probably cost me an opportunity.
Are we still feeling confident that our first ever adventure together in England could end in failure or success? What's the vote? What's the vote?
Success.
100% success.
Obviously.
We've got time and the weather on our side. It's going to happen, boys.
We can't even think of failure. It's not an option.
That's why I like talking to you. Like, this social distancing lark, you know, it don't work for me. I need more contact.
No, the next one's going to be a 30-pounder.
With dreams of a turn in fortune, we got back to working out the puzzle in front of us. But the day passed again with no action and no signs of carp.
What I like about fishing new lakes is getting to learn along the way to turn opportunities into fish on the bank. I'll be honest, I'm not learning very much at the minute. The only way you can learn is by getting bites, and we are struggling to do that as a team.
We started to feel that a 30-pounder may well be a much tougher prospect than we'd first thought.
The next day, after a carpless third night, as forecasted, the temperature was noticeably warmer, and the country estate lake all of a sudden had a new feel about it, best described by anglers as it felt carpy.
Oh, I've been up since first light again, and my right-hand rod on the island has just pulled up tight, and I'm pretty sure we are into a carp. As with any lake I fish, first bite, my legs are like jelly. I can barely talk, but I'm wearing a grin from ear to ear. You can be at your lowest ebb, and then a few bleeps on that bite alarm, and you feel like an absolute winner. I love carp fishing.
This carp felt big, and with a lot of snags in the margins and large beds of weed, I had to make sure I kept my cool. Losing this fish would be a disaster, as you just don't know if you'll get another chance.
I'm shaking. He's not too far out now.
With the snags cleared, it was still not a given. As most fish are lost at the net, maximum concentration is now needed.
Come on. Get in. Yes! The odd doubt always starts to creep in when you've done a few nights with nothing. When you land one, oh my days, yes!
Massive sense of relief whenever you get your first bite from a new lake. When you're under extra pressure because you're trying to catch a big one as well, when it finally happens, it goes in the net, and you think you've done the team target, it's a pretty good morning. Well, it's fair to say the team target is smashed. £36.4. Get in. What a way to get off the mark. 36.4 of epic English common.
That's what we come here for, boy.
Mate, how's your luck?
Mate, both of mine would have fit in that belly, I think.
Perhaps he's eating them.
Mate, what a fish.
What a carp, man.
Buzzing. Well, we came here expecting very tricky fishing, and if I leave with only one bite to my name, I will still leave very happy. Mwah. Back you go, mate.
The team target bar was now being raised to £40, although I reckon Ali would even take a 4-pounder at this stage.
Well, mega news about Mr. Spooner. That's such a result. A little bit of a monkey off our back, but if I'm honest, I'm dooming over here because I really, really wanted something earlier in the trip. 3 nights in, confidence is low. Need the carp to give me something, a sign that, you know, I'm doing something right.
Fishing isn't easy all of the time, and I think I did blank once years ago, and it was really quite difficult. So I can imagine Ali's going mad in his own head at the minute, but he needs to stay steady, carry on doing what he's doing. I'm sure he'll get there in the end.
72 hours in, blanking on home soil is not an option. My session needed saving. I needed some words of wisdom from an English legend.
Hello, mate.
David!
Yeah, no, you stay, mate. 10 yards, 10 yards. Yeah, yellow.
You brought me some luck or what?
I hope so, mate.
Yeah?
I've been struggling.
Could do with some tips if you've got any. If you're local, I tell you what, we could probably do a free transfer here.
All right,
Don't
then,
need a real angler stepping in, I reckon.
Is it hard, is it?
It's been hard for me, mate, yeah.
I needed a mental boost, and surely Seaman had a story or two.
Yeah, here's a sporting question for you. Did you ever have periods when you just felt like it weren't quite going for you? And then you just, a little turn of luck came good?
I remember we played Sampdoria away.
And Bellucci is in there again. It's unbelievable.
And we were struggling, we were going out, and then we ended up scoring, like, a really lucky free kick.
He takes it, he tries it, he's driven it in!
Then we kept it clean sheet in the extra time and then went straight to penalties.
Not driven
And in the end, I ended up saving 3 of them.
Arsenal go into the final.
Do you reckon that night was sort of like the Sampdoria game was written in the stars before it? Or do you think you make your own luck?
I think you make your own luck, but sometimes it just happens.
Well, I need some of that. I need some of that to brush off. I can't get close enough to you to, like, get the aura, but...
Can I stroke your rods?
Stroke the rods. I'll anti-back them.
All right, then.
And I'll pray for a last-minute screamer.
I just hope the visit from my old mate Safe Hand Seaman would bring me that bit of luck I needed.
The rest of the day passed with no more bites for the team, but as evening drew in, a deadly new part of our bait armoury arrived that could change things.
Even though the spots are staying the same tonight, the hook baits are staying the same, the free bait that I'm putting out is not. This is my get-out-of-jail card. They're the casters, and they're probably my favourite bait of all time in the spring. The carp absolutely love them, and I've caught a lot of really big fish on these. So